The show is over. The race to get backstage is on. The winner, 9 times out of 10, Suzy Menkes, International Herald Tribune.
Non, non. Personne par le podium, vous passez par la porte là-bas en haut.
Backstage after the show, the Holy Communion of the fashion ritual commences. The supplicants incant reassuring superlatives: fabulous, stunning, brilliant, superb, but mainly beautiful.
It's all beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming.
Beautiful, beautiful.
I know it's
There's a palpable emotion in the air at a successful show. It's communal relief. The clothes are wearable, saleable, good for business. But the journalists, the buyers, licensees, fabric manufacturers, perfumiers, friends, franchisees, and of course the designers. And they give thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you for everything, and thank you really.
Thank you. Merci beaucoup. Merci.
Thank you. Thanks.
Merci, Carl.
Also backstage, other dues are being called in. Well-known strong-arm photographer Graziano gets model Naomi Campbell to kiss him for his private Polaroid collection.
Me with Brenda, me with Suzanne, me with Linda.
The deal is clear. If the girls don't kiss him, they won't get the best shots in future shows.
Jasmine from Simon Le Bon.
Fashion students video their success in dodging PR and security to get backstage. Toasting each other in champagne, the designers, of course.
Are you having a really good time?
Exchanging frank professional views.
The best show was John Galliano, right? It's one of us.
It wasn't. We liked Montana, and so you have to pull my shoes.
I love going and I hate fashion.
And the latest research on how to get your foot in the door.
Why couldn't you go there? Did I say you were a model?
No.
Why? You should do. You should. Two of my friends just like ran up to the doors and said, "We're models. You go with wet hair."
With a big bag.
Wet hair, big bag. I've just come from Comme des Garçons. I'm a model.
Many of these designs are pure fantasy, runway fodder, and will never again see the light of day. Certain outfits, however, will have caught the eye and become the focus of further attention.
No, I'm looking at the things because I have to photograph them after the collections are over. For Italian Vogue. I think the things at the beginning of the show were more interesting, more directional for him. There's sort of interesting combinations of colors, kind of off pastel. I think the glitzy stuff is okay for pictures, but I'm not sure whether it's going to be okay for life. And I think that a lot of the studs have fallen out of this dress.
Outside, the audience who didn't get an audience drift off. Arm guards see off precious gowns. Top models relax after a grueling 40 minutes work at around £10,000 an hour. Happy to be seen, sign autographs, give interviews. Well, perhaps not always.
Come on, bug off! Bug off, I mean it.
But in the happy confusion and chaos of backstage, and as copy deadlines loom, a desperate search for meaning is going on.
Oui, la couleur, bien sûr, l'an dernier c'était très noir, j'ai dû rentrer sur la couleur.
With the dog and with the car and showing and to be the best elegant. So that's a little like my Fair Lady way also.
I never ask a designer the meaning of life when I go backstage because I'm frightened they might tell me.
So
tell me what the message is. That clothes don't have to be too complicated.
Pourquoi est-ce que vous habillez les femmes dans leur façon de...
What would you say, in a few words, is your fashion philosophy, your philosophy of style?
Yes.
Yes.
It's very important.
Masterpiece collection, the best dance should ever do. It's really a masterpiece.
Let's face it, it's very often journalists putting words in their mouths because, you know, we're helping each other in those cases.
Once the message has been agreed upon, however banal, everyone can relax. So how many kisses has Karl Lagerfeld had today?
I don't know. You never count anything. I don't count kisses, I don't count money, I count nothing.
But count the lucrative contracts Karl has as chief designer, with Chanel, Chloe, Fendi, with total yearly earnings in excess of $10 million. As a designer stroke businessman, he knows that money is everything in the fashion industry. Billions are riding on the success or failure of the collections. After thousands of people have crammed into hundreds of salons for months on end, after thousands of rolls of film have been shot, has the big photo opportunity paid off? As the media prepares to play its part as the powerful conduit between designer and public, as hundreds of journalists set off to write the 2,500 pages of copy written every season, did the PR get it right? Were the right people sitting in the right seats? And in an industry where a bright idea can mean 1 million sales and a couple of bad ideas bankruptcy, will they say the right things? If everyone could agree on a joint fashion statement, journalists, buyers, designers, and customers, then the wheels of the industry would turn smoothly. But they don't. Taste is relative. Nobody knows what's nice or not. It's all a matter of opinion.
Designer Karl Lagerfeld's models prowled on the catwalk yesterday and showed off clothes that were slinky, racy, and definitely wearable.
Facile parody as clothes became increasingly garish and vulgar. Bondage leather, chains, and push-up bras made the show look like a transvestite revue set to a Wild West theme.
Exquisite silk bustiers. Bottom line in tackiness.
Wherever their seat is finally located in the press block, each journalist sees a collection from a fixed point of view, in every sense of the word, fixed by their employers, from newspapers, quality and tabloid on the one hand, to magazines, glossy and trade on the other. Each is representative of a particular constituency with specific objectives. But however different the publications may be, according to Michael Gross of New York Magazine, there are but two types of fashion journalists, reporters and cheerleaders.
Cheerleaders tend not to write nasty things. Cheerleaders tend, in many cases, not to write the truth. My first season in Paris, I had to go backstage at a show where I hated the collection. And I walked backstage and bang, face to face with Martine Zitmond. And out of my mouth came one of the worst things that you could possibly say when she asked me what I thought of the collection. I said it was interesting. Oh, God, forgive me for that. And her face fell, and I knew I had made a mistake. So I went to one of the great old dragon ladies of the fashion press, whose name I won't tell you, and I said, what do you do in a case like that? And she said, there is always something to like, even if it's a shoe. And this is what many fashion writers do, is they look for that shoe because they're not going to criticize that dear designer who invites them to dinner, places them at their right at dinner, gives them clothes at wholesale, at cost, at discount, for free, sucks up to them backstage, makes them feel important.
It's a very press-conscious profession, as you very well know. And there's a lot of money invested in lobbying the press of all kinds, magazines, newspapers, television.
I mean, realize these are reporters working on reporters' salaries, dealing with egomaniacal millionaires. And so pleasing these egomaniacal millionaires becomes very, very, very important to them. I don't care whether I eat dinner with these people.
There are people around designers, some of whom are smart and some of whom aren't smart. And every journalist has been threatened in one time or another by someone who says, I'm going to cancel my advertising if you don't do this.
I mean, there is a lot of bribery that goes on. I see the carrier bags arriving at my hotel in Paris, not addressed to me, addressed to everybody else, you know, and I sort of peep into them and think, oh, that looks like a nice jacket. But that's, you know, they've bought that space, basically, if they're going to give them a free coat.
I'd love to have lots of roses, but that's sadly not true.
But prezzies are not always enough to stamp out the rogue elements of subjectivity and individual opinion.
Designers get very het up about the fashion collections, and it's very difficult for them to understand that for us professionals, each collection is just one in a stream of collections. But of course, for a designer who's been working on something for 3 months non-stop, they feel that they should be given immense space, huge pictures. You really have to take a deep breath and look at it and write what you think about that, rather than thinking about what they might think that you're writing about.
What Gianni Versace thought of what Suzy Menkes thought about a recent collection of his almost got her banned, though reprieved at the last minute. Elton John thought it was amazing, fashion and theatre. If all the world's a stage, fashion designers are the costumiers of daily life, the relentless demands of seasonal scene changes, sending some to the cutting edge of style, reflecting, perhaps unconsciously, wider social changes. Fashion editors are witness to the spectacle, and Suzy Menkes and her publisher see her role as critic to the unfolding drama.
I don't think the show worked at all in terms of this is my fashion statement for the autumn.
Fabrics with holes, materials that looked as though they'd had a nasty accident in the dye bath.
But I think coming back and looking at it from a perspective, it actually was very interesting intellectually as a statement. It was about torn clothes, about unfinished clothes, about tribal African jewellery actually drawn on the skin. But nothing's in its finished form. And, you know, you don't have to be Freud, you don't have to be a genius to see that this is a reflection of all the destruction that's going on in the world outside, you know, from the Berlin Wall, the collapse of communism, all these things. There's a great feeling of destroy in the air.
As legendary for the confidence of her opinions as her cottage loaf hairdo by Alexandre de Paris, Suzy Menkes files 1,500 words daily in the heat of the collections, so is read avidly by designers, buyers, a small but high-spending readership from Beirut to Bangkok, and her colleagues.
Her copy comes out in the morning, and a lot of people I know will read her copy, and if she says, Carl was fabulous, even people I've spoken to the night before who said, oh God, what was that skirt, will then write, Carl was fabulous. And I don't understand that attitude. They won't stick their necks out. She is so powerful and so well regarded that they think, well, she must be right. They don't trust their own instincts on clothes.
She can say whatever she wants because she is Suzy Menkes.
I think there's only one thing worse than being called a legend, and that's being called a doyenne, which makes me think of a terrible old bag in a moth-eaten fur coat, peering at the runway through a pair of glasses which is nearly blind.
The models are forever young, but there's an aging coterie of hardened pros who've staked out the premier positions at every major fashion show. Fashion fossils with formidable power, like John Fairchild. Mr. Fairchild, as he prefers to be called, inherited a sleepy trade journal called Women's Wear Daily and turned it into the Bible of the fashion industry, the only daily trade paper read religiously by the entire U.S. garment industry, from the big designer names to button makers, from socialites to sewing machine repairers. With a string of journals from sports style to children's business, W Europe to footwear news, Mr. Fairchild is the Citizen Kane of the rag trade.
We invented the word hot pants. We invented the word Nouvelle Society. Invented the fashion phrase, which I love, sportive. It's from the French word.
And takes a somewhat jaundiced view of the fashion industry.
Designers sometimes aren't as smart as their customers. There really is no society today. It's just money.
Mr. Fairchild mocks fashion's big spenders, marking them down for style, like Princess Stephanie of Monaco, Yoko Ono, fashion victims like Imelda Marcos, Nabila Khashoggi and Gloria von Turn and Taxis. And variously in and out have been sensitive creative types like Asdine Alaya, Valentino, Yves Saint Laurent. Geoffrey Bean was so far out he was banned from the Fairchild pages altogether.
Mr. Fairchild would wipe certain designers off the face of the earth and then claim he had nothing to do with it and say that it was his editors or his writers.
Or Louise J. Esterhazy, women's wear's bitchy socialite gossip columnist who's rumoured to be Mr. Fairchild himself.
Very light-colored cream.
Fairchild was said to strike fear
I like it. It's too bad it's white.
into the hearts of the great couturiers. Yves Saint Laurent and Mr. Fairchild have had their share of pannings, bannings and butterings up. But when Mr. Fairchild loves a collection, everyone knows about it.
Have you done the Saint Laurent story yet?
I think that they were working on it, Mr. Fairchild.
He throws the whole panoply of his publishing might behind it.
YSL striped.
You know, the long evening dress,
Right.
and then we're going to buy
Evening
and we're going to send
dresses.
We're on deadline. They are holding the paper in New York for us to decide here what we want, and we decided those dresses were the best dresses in Paris, in fact.
Which turned out to have the worst photos.
Okay.
We might have a
Heather, you have a cover quality photo? It's going to be flat.
All right, you know exactly when it was, Wade. You were standing behind the mirror.
Did you see the Saint Laurent pages?
Where's the Saint Laurent?
Where are the Saint Laurent pages?
And you could just go and really concentrate on those striped dresses, and I'll tell you the numbers if you want, even. No, the middle.
All right, here's the Yves Saint Laurent.
Mr. Fairchild's YSL story will run tomorrow in Women's Wear Daily in New York and will feature in his glossy fashion and lifestyle magazine, W, all over Europe in 4 languages next week.
All right, we're going to go now, because it probably hasn't even started yet. It's the 76. You know which ones.
I know exactly what one.
And just shoot as many pictures as you can. And make perfect quality. Bring me back a cover.
And the fashion monsters
Fashion
go off
history.
the board. Ciao.
Meanwhile, veteran photographer Chris Moore, covering the collections in colour and black and white for a client list including the International Herald Tribune, The Observer, Sunday Times, The Guardian, The Independent, Cosmopolitan, Options, etc., is delivering his 500th roll for processing. It's mid-season, so that's about par for the course. Nothing goes out of fashion faster than fashion news. A slim window of opportunity for journalist and photographer can be counted in minutes.
First film from Dior, the premiere bobbin, we're going to bring out and give to you so that we get it in tomorrow's paper. Okay? Fantastic.
Tomorrow's paper is the axe hanging over every daily journo's head.
Didn't they go this morning after the
Well, after this one, I think they're going back. They're sending it back, all back after this.
A deadline's a deadline, a scoop's a scoop, whether you're a war journalist or a fashion journalist. Though if you're the latter, like Lowry Turner of the Evening Standard, reporting on an industry which, ironically, is larger globally than the armaments industry, it may still be a struggle to be taken seriously.
Certainly in journalism, the fashion editor is the lowest form of life. My job is to be a little girly and to sort of supposedly go shopping in Paris and, you know, not do any work at all.
This week, in scenes reminiscent of the Millwall versus Chelsea grudge match, the truth behind the glitter and glamour was revealed.
Go out to dinner. That's what they think I do all day. You know, I mean, they honestly do believe that. They don't. It's only when I, you know, talk really, when I'm really rough in the morning, and do they realise. But even then, they just think, oh, she's obviously out at a party last night. You get up at 5:30 and you're like, because as soon as the alarm goes off, my heart's starting to race, you know, and I'm smoking and I'm thinking, oh God, I'll get this done. The problem is, of course, is oversleeping, and I've done it once, and they rang me at 8 and said, where's your copy? And I not only had I not filed it, I hadn't written it either, and so I said, give me 10 minutes, you know, and then I'll get it done. I will never go through that again. But then when you've actually filed it through and the water's running for the bath, you think, yeah, thank God it's done. It's done. You get a real sense of, it's almost like you had to do some terrible stunt. You know, you had to walk a tightrope. And when you've done it, you're really, really proud of yourself. No, I'd say run the Galliano. Much stronger. Yeah, I know the other one's got less clothes, but the Galliano's much stronger in fashion terms.
In terms of selling newspapers, a critical voice fights to be heard over the blare of the sexy imagery and the eye-catching headline, which may blatantly contradict it. Profile is everything. It's not just selling clothes. Getting your name in the paper will help shift your perfume, your tights, your accessories, and of course, pages need filling. Attention-seeking designers parade tantalizing images in front of image-hungry photographers. With many masters to serve, shoot first and ask questions later is the motto of the runway photographer, who snaps at everything that moves just in case. They are under extreme pressure to capture in focus and with no chance of a repeat, the image to support whatever fashion story may be forming in the fashion editor's mind.
It's 20 days solid work, and it's 20 days of like from 7 o'clock in the morning to 11 o'clock at night. And it's stressful. It's not just the picture taking is easy. It's the dealing with the clients. It's a great worry if anybody starts to brief or tries to brief, because they don't know what's going to happen, and of course we don't know what's going to happen. The fashion editor chooses the picture, and I sometimes think that's a bit of a mistake, because the fashion editor does choose pictures for the fashion content, not for the pictorial element.
You take 10 million pictures and you present them to the client, and they look at you in exasperation and they say, "But Niall, you haven't got the blue hat." You see, and your whole world crumbles. You think, "God, I haven't got the blue hat."
Well, 2 blue hats in a row could constitute a trend, and fashion editors are nothing if not trend spotters. Though there are no verities, the fashion media deals in a never-ending series of absolutes and certainties. Trousers are in, tartan is back, tulle is to die for, brown is the new black. Everyone, designers and journalists, are like Sisyphus condemned to an eternal cycle of newness, a seasoned story which can be expressed in a few succinct phrases.
I thought it was brilliantly executed and forward.
A softening up of the skirt.
The big message for us was blue, all sorts of blues.
Old world romanticism pushing it forward.
The white shirt came back.
That's going to be a really big change this fall, and looking forward to the spring.
Because if tomorrow women and men don't react to trends and change the way they dress, a lot of people will be out of work. Cotton pickers in India, Chinese silkworm farmers, Italian yarn spinners, Scottish weavers, German dyers, French seamstresses, Greek, Turkish and Bengali workers sewing in sweatshops in New York, Korea, Thailand and London. And wholesalers, retailers, vendeurs, market traders and rip-off merchants the world over. Millions of livelihoods, all depending on changing trends. Unbelievably, this season, Spring-Summer '92, the most significant trend the combined imaginations of the world's press and top designers could come up with is that hoary old chestnut of fashion, skirt length. Human history written in shifting erogenous zones, or a simple gimmick?
In '88, you saw the skirts start to come up. Now, we have to keep people interested in fashion. What should we do? Let's make the skirts shorter, that way we'll get in the newspapers. By 1990, they were dispensing with clothes altogether. The last time I was in Paris, I saw more nudity than you would see on 42nd Street in a strip palace. And these were, these were some of the world's most beautiful girls. But they had gotten to the point where the necessity for outrage was so great that the only way that they could think of to get attention was to do away with the very product they were selling, clothing. So suddenly you saw see-through clothing. You had Yves Saint Laurent send 12 girls out with one breast hanging out of their toga dresses, and this was really as far as it could go. When you've gone to no clothing, where was there to go?
Well, down? Having hooked the public on short and sexy, the designers and journalists are trying to foist long on them again.
And perhaps it's almost time. I mean, you know, we haven't had a graceful, slender silhouette. And what's happened, of course, is with the longer skirt, you get a very simple top. So the shoulders have come in. The waist has become more important. So you're getting a nice little tiny top. And then you can afford to have this big skirt. But I mean, it has to happen that it should change.
Does it? Well, longer is better for fabric manufacturers, their employees, cotton growers, etc. But tough on the consumer, whose entire wardrobe may suddenly feel dated. And in a recession, tough on stores' buyers, who can't afford to have thousands of dollars left hanging on racks, as happened in '88 when their customers resisted the new short length. It's no fun watching potential retailing nightmares, however attractive, walk down the runway.
Joan Calvin-Shire, I sat next to the managing director of Barney's, and he thought it was terrible, the longer skirt. And I said, but you can't fight it. You're going to have to go with it.
The fashion editors of the glossies like Vogue, Elle, Harper's & Queen and Marie Claire are the champions of change, eagerly seizing every opportunity to publicize new trends from their hard-earned front row positions. They're the real cheerleaders of the fashion industry, the vital raison d'etre of all the razzmatazz. For selection by stylist, photographer and fashion supremo can give a designer's creations priceless exposure.
Great, 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 great. Gorgeous, 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 gorgeous. Divine, divine, divine. There, I love that. I love that look.
Glossy magazines are glossy because they're printed on expensive glossy paper. The images are glossy and glamorous. The models wear plenty of lip gloss, and generally speaking, they put a gloss on reality.
Great, great, great. Great, 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 great. That's good, good.
The reality for writer and photographer Michael Roberts, working round the clock on a 6-page sequence with Cariotis for Italian Vogue, is that he probably has 15 minutes with this dress before it's whisked away to the 20 other glossy magazines across Paris who've booked it on the same day.
Brilliant. 1, 2, 3. For me, in photography, everything has problems. It's all endless problems, and how well they're resolved. Problems with light, problems with film, problems with location, problems with models, problems with hairdressers and makeup artists and God knows who else. And this whole sort of charivari of people that's sort of like there. I mean, it's just endless problems. And the good picture is the one where you go back home at night and thinking, well, that wasn't so bad. Or I got through that.
The pressure's relentless. The fashion editor's eye, swamped by the chaos of disparate designs from the runway shows of the world, must perceive a coherent pattern.
We've covered the major fashion points, and I think this is just really to show the textures and the sort of vibrance of the colours that everybody used. And we start, obviously, with things like Gaultier and Roland Klein, the very bright white, stripes. Yeah, the bold stripes.
From thousands of summery outfits shot in October, perhaps 20 must be chosen by Christmas to become the editor's consumer guide to the spring season for the February issue.
Nice to have the shorts and then the big long skirt. I mean, that's actually the ultimate long shirt, isn't it? Yeah. From the white shirt story.
I mean, will the rights of spring ever catch up with spring itself in time to shop? Seasonal schizophrenia is the occupational hazard of the fashion industry.
Because I've been involved in it for 20 years, I don't see its complexities anymore, so it's not very complex. There are 2 seasons, and one happens in March, which is the winter shows, when they really should be the summer shows, but they're not. And another one happens in October, which should be the winter shows, but it's not, it's summer shows. The March, through July Vogue is the summer Vogue, right? So the August through January is the winter Vogue. From October through to March, we are shooting in the sun somewhere, summer clothes. So from March